The teacher closed the classroom door behind me, and the quiet click of that latch is a sound I will never, for the rest of my life, be able to unhear. It was a Tuesday in October, one of those gray, forgettable mornings where you're running on your second cup of coffee and a to-do list that never gets shorter. I had dropped Lily off at Maplewood Elementary at 8:15, same as always, kissed her on the top of her head, watched her little backpack bounce through the double doors, and drove straight to work. I was 36 years old, married for 9 years, mother of one spectacular 5-year-old girl, and I genuinely believed that my life was good. So when I got the call at 11:30 from the front office asking if I could come in at pickup time because Miss Hartley needed to speak with me privately, I assumed it was about Lily's speech. She'd been seeing a therapist for a mild articulation issue, nothing serious, but it had been on my radar. I called Daniel on my way out of the office and left a voicemail. "Hey, school called, probably about Lily's speech thing. Don't worry, I'll handle it." That's what I said. Don't worry, I'll handle it. I should have let him handle it. Maybe then I would have seen his face when he saw what I saw. Miss Hartley was 20-something, warm, the kind of teacher who still genuinely loves children and hasn't had it beaten out of her yet. She met me in the hallway and said, "Thank you so much for coming. Is it okay if we talk in private?" I followed her into her classroom. The kids were still at recess. She closed the door, and she looked at me the way people look at you when they're about to say something that changes your life and they know it and they wish they didn't have to be the one. She said, "I want to start by saying Lily is wonderful. She is healthy and happy and thriving. This is not about anything being wrong with her." I said, "Okay." She reached across her desk and picked up a piece of paper. Construction paper. The wide-ruled kind, the color of sunshine. Lily's name was written in the top right corner in red crayon, the letters still a little wobbly the way kindergarten letters are. Miss Hartley turned it around and placed it flat on the desk in front of me. I looked at it for a long time without speaking. It was a family portrait. That's what the assignment had been. Draw your family. Lily had drawn 4 figures in a row. The first was a tall woman with brown curly hair and a big smile. That was me. I recognized the purple dress. Lily was always drawing me in that purple dress. Next to me was a smaller figure with pigtails and a gap where her front tooth used to be. That was Lily. Then a taller figure with dark hair and a blue shirt. Daniel. I recognized the little tie she always drew on him because he wore ties to work, and she thought that made him look like a penguin, which she found very funny. And then there was a 4th figure. A woman. Blonde hair, a red dress, drawn with the same careful attention Lily gave everything she loved. And at the bottom of that figure, in the painstaking handwriting of a 5-year-old who had recently learned to spell her own name and was very proud of that fact. A name, Nikki. I looked up at Miss Hartley. She looked back at me with those careful, compassionate eyes. "Has Lily mentioned anyone named Nikki before?" she asked me. I sat down in one of the little kindergarten chairs and I said very quietly, "No, she hasn't." "I asked her about the drawing during our sharing circle," Miss Hartley said. "I asked her who all the people were, and she pointed to each one. She said, 'That's Mommy, that's me, that's Daddy, and that's Nikki. She lives at our other house, and she makes really good pancakes.'" Our other house. I want you to sit with that for a second because I had to. Our other house. I have thought about that phrase almost every day for the past 2 years. Not Daniel's other house, not Daddy's other house, our other house. Like it was just a normal part of Lily's world, like she had been to this other house enough times that it had become ours, like she had eaten Nikki's pancakes on enough Saturday mornings that Nikki deserved a spot in the family portrait right next to me. I thanked Miss Hartley, I took the drawing, I walked out to the pickup line, buckled Lily into her booster seat, and I drove home. I made her a snack. I asked about her day. She told me about a caterpillar she found at recess, and I said, "Wow, that's amazing, baby." And I watched her eat her apple slices, and I felt like I was watching everything from a very great distance, like I had floated up out of my own body and was just hovering somewhere near the ceiling, looking down at a woman who did not yet fully understand what was happening to her. Daniel got home at 6:30. I had dinner on the table. I watched him kiss Lily on the top of her head, the same way I always do, and for a second I thought about how easy it looked, how completely, effortlessly normal, how practiced. After Lily went to bed, I put the drawing on the kitchen table. I didn't say anything. I just slid it across to him and I waited. He looked at it and I watched something happen in his face. It wasn't shock. That's the thing that told me everything I needed to know right there. It wasn't shock. It was a flicker, just a flicker, and of something like calculation. How much does she know? What did Lily say? How bad is this? Then he looked up at me and he said, "Who's Nikki?" I almost laughed. I almost laughed out loud. "That's exactly what I'd like to know," I said. And he said, "I have no idea. Lily has a big imagination. You know how she is." He said our 5-year-old daughter had imagined a blonde woman named Nikki who lives in our other house and makes really good pancakes. I said, "Daniel." She described her to Miss Hartley. She knows her name. She's been to this house. He said, "Kids mix things up. Maybe she met someone at the park. I genuinely don't know who this is." "You're acting crazy," he said. He actually said that to me, standing in our kitchen in the house I had helped pay for, looking at a drawing our daughter made of our family with another woman in it. And he told me I was acting crazy. I didn't cry that night. I think I had already understood something, somewhere deeper than my conscious mind, that crying was not going to help me anymore. Crying was what I had done for the past 9 years, every time something felt slightly wrong, and I told myself I was imagining things. Crying was what I did when he canceled our anniversary trip last June for a work conflict that I now understood was probably a very different kind of conflict. Crying was finished. I was done with crying. What I did instead was start paying attention. I want to be very clear about this. I did not confront him again. I did not snoop through his phone in a panic. I did not call his mother or his friends or do anything that would tip him off. I made a decision, cold and quiet, sitting alone in our bathroom at 2 a.m. while he slept soundly 12 feet away, that I was going to find out exactly what I was dealing with before I did anything at all. I hired a private investigator named Roland, who came recommended by a woman in my book club who had gone through something similar 3 years earlier and come out the other side with the house, both cars, and full custody. Roland was 62, wore reading glasses on a chain around his neck, and charged $1,800 a week, worth every cent. Within 3 weeks, Roland had given me photographs, timestamps, and addresses. Daniel had been renting an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment, $2,400 a month, on the other side of the city for 14 months. The lease was in his name. Nicole Prescott, 29 years old, had been living there since the beginning. And here is the part that made my vision go white at the edges when Roland slid those pages across the table to me. Daniel had been bringing Lily there, at least a dozen documented occasions where he picked Lily up for a Saturday daddy-daughter day and took her directly to that apartment, where Nicole made them pancakes, where our daughter learned her name and put her in the family portrait. He had let our child bond with her. I also found the money. Roland connected me with a forensic accountant, and what she found over the next month was a very careful, very deliberate, very cowardly trail of financial theft. Over 14 months, Daniel had moved $61,400 out of our joint accounts and our investment portfolio in increments small enough to avoid triggering my attention. $3,000 here, $4,500 there. He had used it to furnish that apartment, to take Nicole on a trip to Lisbon in March. I had been home with a sick Lily during that particular regional sales conference, and to put $18,000 in a personal savings account I knew nothing about. I spent 6 weeks working with my attorney, a woman named Claire, who wore 4-inch heels every single day and had never, in 22 years of family law, lost a case she cared about. We documented everything. Every transfer, every photograph, every timestamp, every receipt. Claire told me that in our state, financial fraud in a marriage is treated very seriously in divorce proceedings, and that the documentation we had was, in her words, almost indecently thorough. I filed on a Thursday morning in February. Daniel was served at his office at 11 a.m. He called me 12 times between 11 and noon. I did not answer. When he came home that evening, his face was a kind of gray I had never seen on a living person before. He stood in the doorway of the kitchen and he said, "We need to talk about this." I was making Lily's lunch for the next day. I kept making her lunch. I said without looking up, "My attorney has advised me not to discuss the case directly. You have her number." Serena. That was his voice when he was frightened, low, almost gentle. I made a mistake. I know I made a mistake. But $60,000, the way Claire is going to frame this is going to destroy me. I zipped Lily's lunch bag. I turned around and I looked at this man I had given 9 years of my life to. This man who had handed our 5-year-old daughter to another woman and let her learn to love her. And I said, "You should have thought about that before you let my daughter eat her pancakes." I walked past him and went to give Lily her bath. The divorce was finalized 7 months later. I received the house, which we owned outright after refinancing 3 years prior. Value at time of settlement, $487,000. I received a lump sum settlement of $94,000 representing my portion of the dissipated marital assets plus penalties. I received primary physical custody of Lily, with Daniel having supervised visitation until a custody evaluation was completed. Claire submitted the financial forensics report directly to the judge, who looked at Daniel's attorney over the top of her reading glasses and said, in a voice that left no room for interpretation, that she found the pattern of transfers deliberate, sustained, and in bad faith. Nicole, for what it's worth, left him 4 months after the filing. I don't know where she is now. I don't think about her very often. What I do think about is a Tuesday morning in October, a piece of sunshine yellow construction paper, and my daughter's careful, loving handwriting. She didn't know what she was doing. She was just drawing her family the way she saw it. The way a 5-year-old does. Honestly, completely, without filters or strategy. She drew everyone she loved, and in doing so, she handed me the one piece of evidence no lawyer could have manufactured and no husband could have explained away. Lily is 7 now. She doesn't remember Nikki. Kids that age, they move on. She asked me once, maybe 6 months after everything settled, whether Daddy used to have another house. And I told her that sometimes grown-ups make choices that mean things need to change and that no matter what, she was loved. She said okay and went back to her drawing. She was drawing a horse that day. A very good horse, actually. I live in our house, the one I kept. I painted the living room a color called Dusty Sage, which I had wanted to do for 4 years, and Daniel had always said looked too much like a waiting room. It doesn't look like a waiting room. It looks like mine. And that yellow drawing is still in a box in my closet. I kept it, not as a reminder of the pain. I kept it because my daughter drew me with a big smile and curly brown hair and a purple dress, and she put me first. First in the line, first in the portrait, first in her world. She always knew where home was. It just took the rest of us a little longer to figure it out.